Hello everyone, my name is GamePenguin21, and today, this is take 2 of the actual fucking video that I wanted to make today. And this one's going to be on Harman Smith, because, in all honesty, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. And this one's going to be probably a longer form video, not that my videos don't go any less than 20 minutes. But this one's probably going to be a longer one, because I just wanted to get a good video out for you guys, because midterms are coming up. And I really just need to get a video out for you guys. And yeah, we're going to be doing this where we're going to be cutting up some of the content, some of the actual videos. So yeah, standard stuff. But today we're going to be looking at Harman Smith on the 1 million units, apparently, that the Steam Deck has sold. Yeah, so with that out of the way, let's get into this.
Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lord Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Well guys, it's time to pack up that Nintendo Switch and stop playing Nintendo for all time, because Valve has outdone the Switch. They've destroyed the console, they've eclipsed Nintendo, they've beaten them at their own game. Their tablet, the Steam Deck, has demolished the Nintendo Switch in every single way possible, with its incredible lineup of exclusive games that you can only play on the platform, like the option to pirate games if you don't want to pay for them, with the ability to mod them and put port on your console. Like, the Steam Deck is the true tablet for adults. And now, as of 2 days ago, we have confirmation that the Steam Deck from Valve, the biggest product since the iPhone, Valve's new technological wonder, we finally have a relatively concrete idea how many units it sold in the past 7 months. Valve Steam Deck has sold about...
First of all, source please. Where the fuck did you hear this number? If, like, you're hearing this from some sort of weird business insider, I don't know if they're allowed to, like, even say some of that shit. To be quite honest with you, Valve doesn't necessarily have to release their sales numbers if they don't want to. I'm fairly certain that they might have released it, they might not have released it, but we're not fucking sure how or where this is coming from. At least I don't get where this is coming from. You don't list off any sources, any places where you got this information from. Not even a fucking news site that I can look at. I mean, again, I'm not going to look it up because I don't think that you're fucking correct. I don't think that you're pulling this number seemingly out of nowhere and out of your ass. And I don't believe you that they have only sold 1 million units. They might have, and I'm fairly certain that they have, given the time frame and stuff. But again, where the fuck is the source? And number two, there's a lot of the points in there that it just seems to be trying to mock this whole, like, everything that we've been saying is like, they've been saying a lot of this stuff since launch, and this is a better product here, and blah, 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 blah. But who the fuck says all those things? You never, like, say anything about it. You just say, oh, these vague individuals are doing this, and they're saying this. I mean, again, source, please. Clips, please. And thirdly, and most importantly, your audio has sucked throughout the entirety of not only this video, but your entire channel. But this seems to be like the worst types of audio that I've heard of any of your videos as of right now. Like, you have your entire room completely and utterly just making it all echoey and shit. It is just the worst audio, dude. Get a better microphone or something and stop yelling into the Mac laptop that you're fucking using for some reason. I don't know.
1 million units in 7 months. That is like tracking behind the Wii U. I think that's only just ahead of the Virtual Boy, Nintendo's worst performing console ever. Valve Steam Deck, it had a lot of hype. It had a lot of fanboys shilling for it. Even today, I have like a lot of steampunks like making reaction videos about how I'm like overreacting when it comes to like how overstating how big of a failure Valve Steam Deck is going to be. How nobody is saying that Steam Deck is going to destroy Nintendo, or that it's going to be like the biggest product since the iPhone. Like, I have legit had people like rage at me about that, saying that like that's not something that's actually being said. When
I'm not raging at you, but I know that you're talking about me, so glad to hear that I'm actually in your brain cells, sir. Love to hear it.
It actually is. I have like the evidence for it. But Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Again, this was supposed to be the big Nintendo Switch killer. This was like the big deal. This was supposed to be like this was supposed to be Valve, like showing up to Nintendo's party, crashing it, and fucking like all the girls there, right? This was Valve was supposed to like beat Nintendo at their own game, right? They were going to be like the next big thing and make the Nintendo Switch obsolete. Right? That was what the narrative was going into this. That was the narrative well after launch. And even now, I'm sure there are a lot of fanboys like downplaying it and ignoring this and like pretending it isn't true, or that like Valve simply hasn't shipped out enough Steam Decks yet, which is laughable. Like, are you really telling me they can't ship out like 20 million Steam Decks in like a year? Like how many?
Yes. What the fuck company can ship out 20 million units in a year? Like, I've never fucking heard of that in my entire life. One company shipping out 20 million units in a year? Like, I don't know. That doesn't seem possible to me. At least not with the current situation that's been happening. Maybe back in the day when the chip sales and stuff were, like, different, maybe 20 million units in a year could have been a big deal. And could have been, like, accomplishable. But you're looking at, like, lifetime sales. At least for me, in all contexts. No one said that they were going to, like, beat Valve at their own game, necessarily, unless they were doing it more as a joke. But, again, who is saying these things? Who, like, give me names. Give me fucking names, dude. We will look through those files, and we will try to prove you wrong. But you need to provide the evidence for this, rather than just say that you have the evidence. In a court of law, if you don't provide the fucking evidence for, like, a case that you're presenting, we're not gonna fucking believe you. That's how this works. If you provide us the evidence, I'll definitely look it up. I'll definitely look up some of your evidence and just say, like, oh yeah, he's correct. Or oh yeah, he's incorrect here. But you have to provide that evidence in the first place. Just saying that, oh, people were comparing it to the iPhone, oh, people were saying that it's going to be better than the iPhone, or people were going to be saying that they're going to be doing that. Like, people can compare things to other things because guess what, sir? Competition is a thing that exists and a thing that is important. And there are many different layers of competition. There's your direct competition. There are two or more similar products that compete within the same vicinity of the market, very close to each other, that are very indistinguishable from one another and have very little in terms of deviation from the norm. There is your general competition, which is more of a competition where there might be specific differences that set it apart in some way or another. For example, the way that they used it in cars was for the generalness of transportation. With that being said, there's like a minivan. Then there's all the minivans, which is your direct competition. All the minivans that your company doesn't own, obviously. Then you have, in your general competition, all sorts of cars and stuff like that. Those include your minivans, but they are not there in the direct competition one. Then there is more of like different level. Again, there's just many different levels of competition. I forget the specifics of all of it. As of right now, I need to look at my notes and read up on that. But that's generally how this shit works. Competition isn't just like comparing just companies, but it's also comparing products and marketing and things like that. And again, as someone who is taking marketing in school, I have to fucking know these things, dude. It's not just random shit.
How many Switches sell in a year? Like 13? Like Steam Deck couldn't ship out more than that. They're having problems like manufacturing them. No, what's actually happening is that there is no demand. There was never any real demand. The only reason people got a Valve Steam Deck is because they're just that big of Valve drones, and they do exist. Or two, and I think this is the more relevant reason, is that like steampunks were sick of like seeing Nintendo fans like just pick up their Switch and take it like on a train with them or something, right? Like it's so much more convenient than having a laptop, and there's really no there's really no way to compete with that. Like, no matter how much they like try to cry and whine otherwise, like, oh, I don't go a.
And also, now that the Steam Deck is out, people can do the same thing with their fucking Steam Decks. It's not hard for you to say the benefits of this the Nintendo Switch having both a docked mode and a handheld mode. But I can sing the praises of my Valve Steam Deck all day fucking long, because I now use it as my daily driver for when I'm like on the go for certain games, for certain smaller games that I don't want on my main computer, for certain smaller games that I don't want to play on my main computer. I mean, I will play this Steam Deck at my computer, even though it's technically in handheld mode. I will use it as like a Wii thing that I can connect directly to my computer and, go off and continue to play my game while I'm on the toilet. There's other benefits to it other than just the handheld mode. I mean, yeah, you can connect your Steam Deck, or not Steam Deck, you can connect your Nintendo Switch to your computer in the dock mode, but you have to go over and you have to pick it up if you want to go to take a bathroom and stuff. Whereas I can just connect it to my computer, stream a game to it, and then just go and take a shit. And I can use that as a controller stuff. And yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of other benefits to it other than just that. And it's like, oh, we were jealous of that whole thing. It's like, okay, but now we have it. And also you're using jealousy wrong in this context again, because jealousy is us thinking that you are taking something away from us, when majority of people that probably bought a Steam Deck were either on the fence of buying a Nintendo Switch or didn't want a Nintendo Switch at all, and therefore wanted to get, say, a Steam Deck for one reason or another, or already had a Switch and was like, hey, cool, a Steam Deck, and then just bought it. I've sold people on a Steam Deck for this thing. And people are like, oh, wow, that's really cool. People who have Switches, too. People who are like, wow, this works directly with my Steam library and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it does. Cool, I'll buy one. I've sold people on this because I have the Steam Deck and I can talk to people about it, because the majority of people don't necessarily care where they're playing their video games, so long as their games themselves are the games that they enjoy. Whatever preferred platform that's on, really.
Side, I would never use the handheld mode. Like, it's still a very appealing feature for a lot of people, and a big reason why the Switch does so well. But like, the Valve Steam Deck was supposed to be this thing that was supposed to like bridge the gap. So forget the fact that you already own like a $2,000 PC. Add in like an $800 tablet on top of that.
It's not $800, it's $600, but go off, Queen.
With like, maxed out memory, with all this shit. It could run all the AAA games that Switch can't, man. But like, you're really going to spend that kind of money for games you can play already? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, Arlo kind of pointed this out when he did that, like, Elden Ring is better than Zelda video, where he acknowledged the fact that it was ridiculous that he bought like Elden Ring on both Steam and PS4 so he could like use it on his Steam Deck. He was shilling the Steam Deck in that video, right? Like, it really does feel like the only people who seriously acted like the Steam Deck could reasonably compete were YouTubers. And I was saying this from the beginning. It wasn't going to work out. It wasn't the price point isn't competitive. The library isn't there. The audience isn't there, right? There is no interest in this piece of technology.
Okay, so let's break down each of those points individually. First of all, the library isn't there. Motherfucker, there is hundreds of games that are not only older games, but also newer games that you can play on the Steam Deck. Games such as God of War, Spider-Man Remastered. For instance, you can play some of the Call of Duties on there as well. Elden Ring. if you want to do some smaller indie titles, because that's one of the cool things you can do on your Nintendo Switch. Let's see. There's Boomerang X, Gunfire Reborn that I've been playing a lot of recently. Left 4 Dead 2, again, first party, published by Valve. Half-Life 2, first party, also published by Valve. Portal 2. I'm 99% sure that also exists, like both Portal and Portal 2. I'm not sure if they're Steam Deck completely compatible, but they are there. Team Fortress 2. That one is having some weird issues in terms of controller support, but it's fine so long as you know what the controllers are. But honestly, I wouldn't personally play that on the controller stuff. But yeah, again, those are all games that you can't get on your Nintendo Switch, on your precious Switch. How many of those games can you play on your Switch? I think that the only game that is Steam Deck compatible on your PC that's across everything is The Witcher 3. That's really the only game that you have to talk... Well, that and Doom. I will give you Doom, and I think Doom Eternal, I'm not sure if they have ported it over quite yet to the Steam Deck or Nintendo Switch. But Doom 2016, that's really the only 2 games that I can think of, at least off the top of my head, that are available on both of those platforms. Oh, Stardew Valley, that's another good one. So again, those 3 games, cool. But I can play a whole metric butt ton of them, again, on my Steam Deck. There's literally a page dedicated to verified Steam games that you can play in your Steam Deck. And again, those are just the verified ones. Those are the ones that work perfectly. There are other ones out there that seem to not work well and have that yellow exclamation point, but they still work fine. Again, Sunset Overdrive worked completely fine, even though it didn't seem to have the same support as other stuff. It was just like some of the text was a little bit small, but you get used to that on the tiny screen. Again, it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, yeah, they're selling worse than this thing. But again, this thing hasn't been out for that long, and they're having trouble with a lot of the stuff, which they've, again, publicized known stuff. They've publicized this. They're doubling their efforts in order to kind of, keep up with the demand because they have the money to do so. People are buying games from Valve and stuff. I don't know. Kind of seems like they're pushing forward with this.
But no, everyone just kind of plugged their ears and just kind of ignored me or tried making fun of me or tried calling me a fanboy. Well, who's laughing now? 1 million units sold, selling worse than the Wii U.
But that's still 1 million units. I mean, in terms of sales, didn't the, Virtual Boy not even sell 1 million units? Didn't it sell like 500,000 or something like that? I don't know how many units they've sold completely of the Virtual Boy, but when it was discontinued, that thing was only available for like a year and a half, more or less, and didn't have a lot of games or support.
Okay, that's how bad it is. Selling worse than the Vita. Like, even the Vita is like raping this thing's soul.
Vita's also been discontinued, and also, again, that's a handheld system that was available at a much different rate, and again, is a much different system than the Valve Steam Deck.
Like, I don't know exactly why people were so adamant that this thing was going to be a success, because it so obviously wasn't. Like, this is going to be, I think, another example of a long line of examples of just how many failures Valve has in their lineup when it comes to like their technology, right? The VR thing failed.
Still selling VR, and they still support Steam VR. And all of the headsets and stuff, and there's now actual headsets coming out from other companies, and yeah, they're relying on that like quote unquote third party support, but they're still selling the Valve Index, a first party fucking thing with actual plans to continue and make an Index 2 or something like that, at least as far as we're aware.
Failed, like the Steam Box failed, the Steam controller failed.
Both of those are kind of true. Steam Box was more or less the not it's not a Steam Box. I mean, if you're talking about the Steam Link is now actually on your phone rather than anything else. So there's no actual physical box for it. You can just connect your phone to your PC and then stream your computer to your phone. And then you can even connect your Steam controller to it. And the Steam controller didn't necessarily fail. It just kind of petered out in terms of sales, which a lot of things do tend to have. Mainly because of the fact that other controllers, such as, again, the Xbox ones, now had first-party support for their computers. And Valve was really the first one to kind of pioneer that, because back when the Steam controller came out, I think it was around 2012-ish, the reason why it came out is because none of the other controllers, like the big console guys, were making first-party controllers that worked directly with a person's PC. So Valve was like, fuck it, we're going to do it ourselves. Because you can only have like third-party crappy controllers like from Logitech or something like that weren't as good or as functional. So Valve was like, fuck it, we'll make our own. And then they decided to do it, and then people were like, oh shit, we got to get in on this. This is from what I know.
This is just another long line in that long string of failures. It needs to be understood among the gaming community is that Valve cannot compete in the hardware space. They can't produce tech. They can't make it appealing. They can't sell it to normies. The issue is that they have to compete with all these more viable companies that are way more well established than they. How many PC gamers do you know who actually use a Valve produced controller for their Steam games, right?
Hello.
Everyone just uses an Xbox controller or maybe a DualShock. Nobody uses the Valve one. Valve cannot produce hardware peripherals for even their own storefront. They are reliant on third-party developers in that regard. The only reason Valve is relevant, the only reason anyone cares about them, is that they have a monopoly on PC gaming. Now, I've heard a lot of steampunks deny this fact. They'll try to tell you that oh man, no, I pirate all my games. There's good old games. There's there are alternate storefronts. Nobody uses them. Unless you're getting the free games from the Epic Game Store, which I think is a very, very, very small minority of people, to be honest with you, considering how often games go for $5 on Steam itself. I don't see any of these.
Yeah, did you just pick your fucking ear? Gross, dude. Sorry I also let that play out a lot. It's just that he made a lot of points, and I really didn't think that they needed addressing, but obviously I'm going to have to address them because, quite honestly, this video would get boring if I just sat here and, let the video play out for no fucking reason. So, basically, his points seem to see that Valve has a monopoly on the gaming space, which, no. If they had a monopoly, that means that they have no competitors. None of the other competitors that actually exist or that are there. Yet he listed off 2 or 3 different variations of competitors. Well, he's like, oh, well, the piracy thing. It's the piracy thing is not that big of an issue. Majority of piracy is of people playing the game for a demo version of it for one reason or another. And, or if they're doing ROM style games, that's a completely separate issue entirely, and I'm not going to necessarily go into that because I've already gone into it. But no, I don't again, you listed off GOG. GOG is probably another big game that they do. There's also third-party key sellers that you can get from them to do it for Steam games and stuff. There's Humble Bundle, which you can go and buy games and shit from them. There is So there's, again, the Epic Game Store, even though that they're totally trying to be the competitor to it and they are completely botching their shit, they're still technically a competitor to it. Just because someone is not competing on the same level as something else doesn't necessarily mean that they are the same shit, or doesn't necessarily mean that they're competing products or competing brands. There's a lot of different types of comparisons, contrastions, and in general, different levels of competition. There's your direct competition, there's your indirect competition, there's your price competition, there's your general competition. There's even your overall fucking, what the fuck is it? There's many different levels of competition out there that are not always direct with the company. Just because something is compared to something else doesn't necessarily mean that it's direct competition. Like, technically speaking, I could compare, say, buying a video game versus buying groceries at the fucking store. Are those two competing with one another? They're not in the same market, but they still are generally competing with each other. They're competing for my dollar. They're competing for my specific money. They're not competing over necessarily one thing or another. They're competing for my money and competing over what I want to spend that dollar and money on. If people want to spend their money on, say, a Nintendo Switch, go right fucking ahead. I don't care. But just to say that Valve is not competing on the same level, you're fucking right. They're not competing on the same level as Nintendo or even anyone else. They're competing on the level of, like, portable PC hardware and general PC market. They're competing against that level. And they're, again, competing alongside the Switch in a more general format. It's almost like you can compare things and contrast things that are in general competition with one another because they're competing for your fucking dollar.
Platforms being relevant, like viable, because nobody talks about them. Like, I think when the Cyberpunk 2077 came out, Good Old Games, which is owned by CD Projekt Red, I think their stock dropped. I think people stopped trusting them after that. Like, and CD Projekt Red is, of course, always releasing their games on Steam because they know that people are not going to go to Good Old Games to buy, like, their exclusive AAA products. They have to release on Steam, the only viable.
I mean, the stock dropped for a lot of reasons. One of the big reasons why it fucking dropped was because that game itself was released in a terrible, terrible condition. Yeah, certainly their game prices and sales would have dropped even more had they gone with exclusively for GOG stuff, but they still released the game on Steam because they are, again, a business that wants to sell things, and they wanted to sell Cyberpunk 2077 as much as possible. And this is one of the big reasons why, say, Epic Games gets a lot of backlash, because they're negating that competition. It's not like Steam isn't competing with GOG and other stuff. The reason and the factor that GOG even exists keeps, like, say, Steam in check, because Steam constantly keeps having sales, constantly keeps pushing the envelope, and keeps making good business decisions, which keeps them on top, because they set a lot of those precedents. I don't think that we would have, like, a GOG, or they would have a lot of this other stuff if Steam didn't exist. And again, Steam, more or less, has competitors, which you've listed off. So, yeah, maybe they're not as big of competitors, but again, the mere fact, in my opinion, the mere fact that those other places even exist and are even continuing to exist alongside Steam keeps Steam in check, even though they might not be directly competing with Steam all the time, but they are very, very closely associated with it. And I would say that, again, in some of those cases, they are direct competition with Epic Games, definitely putting themselves in direct competition with Steam, constantly calling them out. But again, that's kind of a different thing, and that's whatever. But yeah, anyway.
PC gaming storefront, right? So, in a sense, I think, I've gone on record about this. I'll probably make another video about this in the future. It feels like the console war is over. Nintendo has essentially won. They've shut out all the competition. Companies that try to intrude on their space, like huge ones like Valve, Amazon, and Google, have, like, pretty consistently failed to introduce new hardware that could compete with Nintendo. Sony and Microsoft are out. It's only a matter of time, I think, until, like, the hardware division is kind of phased out. I think people are only kind of latching onto them because of brand loyalty at this point. But it's coming. It's coming. Nintendo is essentially won the console war. Well deserved, in my opinion. I've been waiting for this to happen since, honestly, probably before I was even born. Like, this is like a big monumentous occasion for me. I'm happy that it's finally happened. Like, I'm happy that, like, in the future, kids won't be bullied for playing on Nintendo consoles. That's very satisfying for me. I'm really happy to see the good guys win in this situation. But again, why did it take so long? I don't think companies should have gone bankrupt over this. Like, you know, like, I don't think that I think there should have been like a lot more pushback against. Okay, well, whatever. We'll get into this, how I feel about this, another day. But like, my point is, like, now that the console war is over, it's the industry has shifted. So like, you have the console, the only console on the market, Nintendo, competing with the only PC store.
Nintendo and Valve are not direct competition. They are, I would say, more general competition, in the sense that they are both, again, in the entertainment area, but they're both vying for yourself in different platforms. Why the fuck do you think that, say, other companies are, releasing their shit on the PC? It's because the PC is in direct competition in the console wars. And you're saying that the console wars is over and that Nintendo has won? Fucking how? I mean, they just legitimately came out with 2 brand new spanking consoles for Xbox and Sony. Both of them just came out with a new generation of consoles. So, considering that, how the fuck is the console war over in that regard if they just came out with a new product? Anyway, there's like another 4 minutes left of this video, but in all honesty, I'm fairly certain that you get the message so far. He says that the Steam Deck is still a failure, all because of these supposed sales numbers that he may or may not have pulled out of his ass. Again, doesn't list off any places of where he got them. The only person, Arlo, that he actually talks about, I think that I don't know what he says about that. I couldn't find the video, or at least the video where he compares Breath of the Wild to Elden Ring, other than maybe the video where he says, like, Elden Ring is the only thing he wants anymore. But this video is already way past the point of where I think is viable, and I have a lot of fucking editing to do today. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it there. I got to edit down a lot of the content in the video. So yeah, final thoughts. This video is just another coping session with, of course, Harman Smith talking to himself at his fucking Mac computer with a microphone that sucks worse than me. In any case, my name is GamePenguin21. Hi Harman. I'm glad that I had to make another video on you. Not really, but fucking nice to make another video on you and to just have a nice low-hanging fruit to punch while I get ready for midterms. And, well, a peace off. That's alright, I'm aware.